Good morning, everyone. For the record, this meeting is being conducted in accordance with Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1. I call this meeting of the Board of Acquisition and Contract for July 16, 2020 to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Jenkins?
Here.
Mr. Boykin?
Here.
Mr. Grundy?
Present.
I note for the record the receipt and filing of the secret review prepared by the Planning Department for today's meeting and the minutes of last week's meeting. I understand the Budget Director wishes to speak.
Yes, the members of the Board of Acquisition and Contract received a memorandum from the Commissioner of Social Services declaring an emergency situation that cannot await competitive bidding. The County of Westchester currently has 2 agreements with All County Bus LLC for transportation services for the Department of Social Services. One of the agreements is for homeless preschool and school-aged children, and the other agreement is for children placed in court-directed custody and children in foster care. These agreements will expire on August 31st, 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted bus operators, which have encountered very difficult economic circumstances that have caused a number of operators to be less able to take on new work and in some cases be unable to provide current services. In order to continue providing transportation without interruption, this Department of Social Services declared an emergency situation which cannot await competitive bidding. The department proposes to enter into new agreements with All County Bus for 1 year from September 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2021 in order to continue the services for these children. The memorandum from Commissioner McGuire dated July 7th reads as follows. The County of Westchester currently has 2 agreements with All County Bus LLC for transportation services for the Department of Social Services. One of the current agreements is for homeless preschool and school-aged children during the regular school year, during summer school, and in extracurricular activities during both the regular school year and summer school. The other of the current agreements is for children placed in court-directed custody and children in foster care. The current agreements will expire on August 31st, 2020. Accordingly, DSS has intended to competitively procure new multi-year contracts for school transportation services and the court-directed custody and foster care transportation services, including by dividing the school transportation services into its 3 component parts with a separate contract for each in order to encourage additional competition. However, the emergency circumstances associated with the COVID-19 pandemic have impacted those plans. The COVID-19 pandemic has had consequences for both DSS's work on the intended procurement, such as by causing DSS to reallocate departmental resources to respond to the impacts of the pandemic, and for bus operators which have encountered very difficult economic circumstances that have caused a number of bus operators to be less able to take on new opportunities and in some cases be unable to continue providing current services. The current state of the child school-related bus services marketplace has been of particular concern to DSS, as it suggests that such bus transportation services may be difficult to obtain, and the county cannot go without the school transportation services or the court-directed custody and foster care transportation services for any period of time. Also, DSS has been advised that there is typically a general lack of capacity in the overall child school-related bus marketplace the closer it gets to the start date for the annual cycle of such contracts, which is September 1st. I understand that this lack of capacity is, of course, due to the fact that bus operators will have increasingly committed their resources for the coming year during the period of time leading up to the September 1st start date. Accordingly, DSS cannot wait any longer to see if the economic circumstances for bus operators and the related child school-related bus services marketplace will improve. There is an urgent need for DSS to secure the services immediately and to do so for the full year, or else face the risk that there will not be sufficient capacity in the marketplace to obtain these services. I have been advised that All County can provide the services for the period of September 1, 2020 through August 31st, 2021, and has agreed to do so on the same pricing as is specified in the current agreements. Accordingly, in order to ensure that DSS receives the services without interruption for the coming year, DSS has determined that it will be submitting a resolution to your honorable board requesting approval of A, an emergency contract with All County for the school transportation services for the new term, and B, an emergency contract with All County for the court-directed custody and foster care transportation services for the new term. These two emergency contracts will allow time for the COVID-19 pandemic to subside and for all of the pandemic's consequences relevant to the services and the bus transportation services market to diminish so that new competitive procurements for multi-year contracts can be successfully conducted through the normal bid process at a later date. Signed, Commissioner Kevin McGuire, Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Grande. I direct the Secretary of the Board of Acquisition and Contract to include the memo from the Commissioner of Social Services as part of today's meeting. I understand the Budget Director now wishes to make those two motions.
I first move to add an additional item 19 on base ID 77879, a resolution to authorize the County of Westchester to enter into 1, an emergency contract with All County Bus LLC for transportation services for A, homeless preschool and school-age children during the regular school year, B, homeless preschool and school-age children during summer school, and C, homeless youth in extracurricular activities during both the regular school year and summer school for the period from September 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2021 for an amount not to exceed $6,482,700 payable pursuant to an approved budget, and 2, an emergency contract with All County Bus LLC for transportation services for children placed in court-directed custody and children in foster care for the period from September 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2021 for an amount not to exceed $1,750,000 payable pursuant to an approved budget.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. The Secretary shall add item 19 to the agenda. The next motion, please.
I would also move to add item 20 on base ID 77961, a resolution to authorize the County of Westchester to 1, enter into an agreement with the New York and Presbyterian Hospital to accept a grant in the amount of $95,000 to provide summer youth employment and training experiences for eligible Westchester youth for a term commencing on July 13th, 2020 and continuing through August 21st, 2020, and 2, enter into an agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Northern Westchester Incorporated to provide summer youth employment and training services for eligible youth for a term commencing on July 13th, 2020 and continuing through August 21st, 2020, an amount not to exceed $13,571.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. The Secretary shall add item 20 to the agenda. Unless there's any objection, I move the board consider agenda items 1 through 20. The floor is open for discussion of agenda items by members of the board. Mr. Chairman.
I have none.
Mr. Grande.
None.
Unless there's any objection, I move a vote to approve the agenda items 1 through 20.
Seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion's passed. Are there any other matters to be discussed, Mr. Chairman?
I have none.
Mr. Grande.
None.
Unless there's any objection, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. Everyone continue to stay safe. Mask up.
Mask on. Yes. Okay, everyone. And stay clean this weekend. It's gonna be really hot.
It's supposed to be like 94 on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes.
The heat index 100 of,
Let's see, just so you know,
Yeah.
Lisa, Greg Cassiato,
And
Lisa Hoffman, Anne Marie Berg, and Tammy.
thank you.
You're welcome.
oh, they're on. They were on?
Yes.
Oh.